All right, are we back again? Look, I don't know what's happening. This is some kind of Zoom
I
problem.
cut in again.
This meeting is scheduled and this is.
Well, they screwed up. What can I tell you? So, are there people from this other meeting here? Is that what's going on?
Hello?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi. I'm not sure what's happening. I think that there were two meetings scheduled for Zoom at this same time. And I believe I don't know who the other, I think it's the cemetery committee. I'm not sure what committee. So apologies for all the mess, but yeah, this is, all right. So this is the Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, and I'm starting our meeting late at 6:35. I'll read the beginning. Wait, let me get my glasses. We acknowledge that Barre City was developed on Sokoke Abenaki land, which the Western Abenaki never ceded, made treaty for, nor were they conquered. We aspire to create a space in our meetings that is inclusive, participatory, and equitable. We acknowledge we all come from different experiences and that our experiences may be affected by racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, ableism, and many other systems of oppression. We are here to address equity within the systems of our city in order to inform the City Council of our findings. We acknowledge that the systemic inequities exist and do not debate the personal experiences of marginalized and underrepresented, represented community members. With that in mind, it is important that we are thoughtful of the impact of our words on each other in this space. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. Okay. So I had COVID last week. Apologies. At 6:25 last Thursday, I get a call from Ellen, and realized in that short conversation that we actually had a meeting that night, which I thought was Wednesday, the entire day. So I'm supposing that's what COVID fog means. And apologies again, but here we are tonight after bumping some other poor committee out of the Zoom. Um, I was not able to get the minutes from the last meeting into the system yet. I will do that this week, and we can vote on both tonight and last night. And last week, last month, at the next meeting in December. Emily, are you going to take minutes for tonight? Can you do that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So before I start the actual meeting, I have to say I got an email from Nicholas, and they are now uh, they want us now to hold meetings in person or a hybrid. So they have chosen for us the public safety building on the second Thursday at 6:30, and I'm going to call the next meeting for an all in person. I'm going to find it difficult. I find it difficult enough to do Zoom meetings and keep it all straight, obviously. So I'm going to ask that that meeting be totally in person. Is that okay for folks? Does anyone have an objection to that? Okay, seeing none, let's move on. Okay, so I would love a full discussion this evening of what we think our future is. I have to say that we haven't had a vote yet by the City Council, but I believe Sonia is on the next agenda, I hope.
Yep. It's on
yeah.
the agenda.
We can move forward anyway with the plan with our plan, but in light of the last election, I would like to hear from folks about what you're thinking about our committee and the future of our work. Who would like to jump in first? Thank you, Greg. Please do. You have to take
There we
take.
go.
Yeah.
There we go. Well, I think basically what we do is keep going ahead and doing what we're doing. If the city council, decides that it's something that is valuable to them. If it's not valuable to them, then we can be spinning our wheels here until, forever, and we'll never get anything accomplished. But uh as far as, changing anything, uh if anything, if we can get some clear guidance from the city council, that would be extremely helpful. Uh but we should continue doing what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else? Or who else is next? Well, I'll jump in. I'm actually very concerned and very worried. Our committee and individuals in our committee, including myself, have been the victims of violent rhetoric, hostility. I'm concerned that with the change in the administration, that people will be further emboldened to attack us. I don't feel that we've been protected particularly by the city council because of the way that we've been treated by them every time we come before them. And it sends a message to the community that we can be messed with, that we can be dishonored, that we can be disgraced even, and we can be held up for vilification. So it remains my concern. I mean, it was always my concern since the beginning, since those things had happened to us. But even after 4.5, 5 years now, I feel the same way, which is not a good sign. And what's a worse sign is that I see the new administration coming in, emboldening people even more to be aggressive and hostile toward the kind of work that we're doing. That's where I'm at.
I think one of the problems is, again, without that guidance from the city council, we really don't have a firm direction in which we're going, other than what we come up with. And it would be very helpful if they were behind us and, giving some guidance as to where they would like us to go, what they would like us to look into, how they can use what we're trying to do. And that could definitely increase our legitimacy. And as far as, people are going to do what people are going to do, yes, but we don't have to tolerate it. And we can, learn to be just as loud and obnoxious as they are, because I do believe that there is a mission here. Ours may not be as clear as it should be, but sometimes you just have to fight and see if you can get through all the garbage that gets thrown at you.
Well, I'm just going to call on folks because I really need to know how you all are feeling before our next meeting. So, Chris, what are you thinking?
Well, what am I thinking? I think that we matter, that we are necessary in this community. If for no other reason than the fact that we just exist. Um, I think obviously what happened with the election was incredibly disappointing. I genuinely thought that the vice president was going to win, and was shocked when she didn't. And I think that certainly race and gender had a big role in that. Was it the only thing? I don't know. I mean, how do we assess that? But it was certainly a very important part of it. And yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Joellen, that there are folks who may feel emboldened to behave and act out in ways that they feel they can, because, you know, our culture is such that we're not really holding people accountable for that. I guess there was a little bit of good news today in that regard, but you know, you want good news. Well, I mean, someone like that to be even considered to be the attorney general of the country is horrifying. So you know, I think we certainly should continue. I don't think we should disband. Um, I'm fed up enough with council that I don't know. I don't feel uh, I don't feel obligated to them in some respects. I know we have to be in a practical sense, but um, uh, they have not been as supportive as they could be. Even folks I would think would be supportive, and so um, uh, but I don't blame them. You know, they represent constituencies and so on. Um, I think we should continue to speak out when incidents occur in our community that involve, you know, DEI issues. Um, uh, how we do that, you know, I don't know. But I think we should, um, because somebody needs to, and I don't know if other people are going to speak out, you know, and we're here and we have somewhat of a mandate in that regard to address these kinds of issues. So, um, you know, I felt like we really made a statement back when, you know, January 6th happened, and you know, I was proud about that we really stood up, and um there were people in the community who weren't happy about it, and that to me is good. You know, I think discussion's great. I think the series that we've done, um, you know, let's talk is enormously important. Um, but I also think that um, we don't have to be the ones to always be engaging. You know, I guess my feeling is, like right after the election, you know, I wanted to leave, like a lot of people probably, you know, just leave the country and so on. And um, uh, but I quickly disabused myself of that idea. I mean, I love Canada as a country. I lived there for 3 years. I would go back in a heartbeat, and not because I feel like I need to get out of here. I just think it's a very interesting country and has a lot going for it. But you know, I also believe that this country was founded on principles and values are that matter and are important. And yeah, that, and I don't in any way minimize, you know, our history. That the fact that a lot of the people who signed the Declaration of Independence, well, they were all men. Number one, white men, wealthy white men, and a lot of them owned slaves. You know, so yes, I get the context, but you know, there are. I don't think this election said anything about what the majority of Americans really think and feel. And um, I don't think everyone who voted for the president elect is racist. Part of me wants to think that. I don't know. I have a problem reconciling how you can vote for someone like that and not be racist. But I don't. I hate to go down that road. So anyway, I want us to continue in some form. And I hope none of us are in danger. I personally haven't been subject to anything other than a nasty comment in the paper when I ran for the school board. And I never addressed that. Maybe I should have, but I don't, but I have to also factor in, I'm a white man, and so I'm not going to have the same experiences other people might have either. So, I think the very fact that that's an issue speaks to why we need to be here and why we need to exist. So my 2 cents. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Emily, you want to weigh in?
Sure. This is a tough one, the future of the committee. I can see a lot of what Greg is saying about the work is important, and if we don't do it, we're the ones who are doing it. So if we don't do it, who will do it? And I really want to recognize Joellen's point about being tired and understanding that we faced a lot of harassment and being targeted, and that takes a toll. And if we're going to continue or not, would be really, if we are going to continue, I think having a very clear understanding of what we are going to commit to, of how we are going to present as a committee going forward, would be the best way to protect ourselves, to understand how loud we're going to be, what kind of platform we're going to use, what our role is really moving forward. And also I want to leave a lot of space if we decide that we can't continue to take up this work, because I don't want to underplay the toll that the work has taken on us. I think it's really important. That's a real valid thing that we've experienced because of this work.
Thanks, Emily. Ellen, do you want to say anything?
Okay, I can speak. I'm happy to do the work of inclusion in our community. It's what I care about. It's why I came to this committee. And I wish it was the work that has made me tired. I'm never going to say that work makes me tired. What makes me tired is having that work stymied over and over and over again, having no support, having no political will from the city. The only thing worse than not doing this work is doing it as a charade, as a pretty picture, as something so that they can check a box off and say, we have a diversity and equity committee, or we have a JED IB committee. I don't want to be a shill for anybody. If this community is not willing to do this work, which they have told us so many times, then I don't want to be on a pretend committee that isn't doing any work. Because we have tried, we have started initiatives. We can't do them. We're coming into a time where we're going to need to protect our neighbors. We're going to need to protect our community. We're going to need to protect each other. And I don't think that this committee is the place to do that. We do not have a charge. We are not even advising city council. I think we say that in the opening, that we advise city council, or we will bring things to ask them to do or something. And yeah, that's not real. When this committee started, there was little thought given to who should be on this committee and what kind of a commitment you're making and what kind of values you would align with. We've had a member of our committee since the beginning who does not align with those values. And I was at one of the Friday night sign holdings where there are a group of us on one side of the street with flags and signs of inclusion. And on the other side were the MAGA folks. With them, one of our members holding a mass deportation now sign. He's not in the room tonight. And I would have said it had he been here as well. Mass deportation now, let that sink in for one moment. That means members of our community who may be undocumented. That is not inclusion. That is not celebration of diversity. And the fact that the city thought it was okay to put somebody on this committee who also works against the bodily autonomy rights of women is obscene. And I for one don't want to be polite about that. I don't want to let that go by. And I understand that the Times Argus is here. Hope you don't misquote me. But I don't want to be on a committee where somebody is working to undermine justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and ultimately belonging. And I don't want to be window dressing for that work when it's not actually happening.
Thank you, Ellen. So we do have an idea, or we did have an idea of what to do in the future in terms of breaking down into two working groups. And that's, of course, what we brought to council. So if they give us some kind of indication that that's something that they're interested in doing, i.e., ratifying it in some way or voting to accept it in some way, which they have never done with any of our presentations to them. To me, that would be an indication that there is some level of support. Probably not enough, but I mean, that's what the future would bring, is how much and what kind of support we would be getting. I don't think that we have 100% support from the council. Neither do I think we have 100% support from the community either. And as Ellen pointed out, that wouldn't be, I mean, the tiring part is fighting against things that we don't even know. I mean, the kinds of criticisms that we've fielded or been thrown at us, some were, I mean, we're all, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, illegitimate and not really taken up in a very honest way. We had a sitting city council member leak things to the press that were private between two committee members. That to me, and that person is now the mayor. So to me, there's some level of worry and concern on my part because those things have never been addressed. We've never heard an apology from anyone about anything. Not that I think apologies work, I mean, necessarily. It's really change in behavior that works, and I haven't seen that either. So I'm willing at this next meeting in December to, depending on what the council does, to start up those two working groups, and we can see what happens from there. So what do people think about that?
Well, I think one of the very important things would be to get the Let's Talk series circulating. Because one of the valuable lessons in that is that it's not really about us and them, or taking something from someone to give to someone else. It's about lifting everybody up. It's about learning what you don't know. And really, you learn what you don't know and you realize, well, that's true, that's interesting. And the idea of what DEI might be out there floating around is not quite the reality, really. Because you can't go around changing everyone, obviously, and you're not trying to change everyone per se, trying to change attitudes more than anything, trying to change understanding, uh, education. What don't I know about this group of people, or what do I think I know about this group of people, or what do I feel I should know about this group of people? And I think, of course, I'm always for inclusion. So, as if we go along, and if we can get that Let's Talk series and permeating out more, perhaps we'll see a change. I'm not gonna, bet the house on it, but it's a lot of it is just about education, because you go around in life and you'll hear people saying really, ignorant things that are not even remotely relevant or true. And that comes from, well, ignorance. They don't know. And if we have a small, a minority cultural group or whatever, maybe one of our tasks will be to create ways to have them expose their culture more. I'm not quite sure how we'll do that, but to bring that culture out and have people understand, well, that is cool. That's interesting. I'm glad I know this now. So perhaps that needs to be part of our overall approach. Because there are a lot of big issues, and we can start by bringing people out of maybe making people feel more comfortable about sharing their culture. And it's a big task because we're just a group of people here, and you say to someone, yeah, Bray, come on out and show us what you got, to everyone. And there's a little bit of trepidation there, is that is it going to be accepted? But I think overall it's something we need to look into, and that is to trying to find ways to expose everyone to what exists in the community that they don't know about. Something to think about. Because I grew up in a very multicultural society, and you know things seem to work rather well, and it was always interesting to me how everything sort of meshed together. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it takes time. It takes a long time sometimes, but the result is something really special and spectacular. So, and it's worth working towards. That's all. I'm done.
Thanks, Greg. By the way, the next Let's Talk series is Saturday, January 11th, and then the following Saturday on the 18th from 9:30 to 1 with lunch. I'll get the new words out about that this coming week. Like I said, I've been recuperating and not really thinking straight yet. Anyone else want to weigh in here? Sonia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave you out, but is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. First, I want to say that I am in the same room as Matt because we're sitting here together. He wanted to come to the meeting, and he wanted to go together, and I was like, it's a Zoom meeting, so I'm sitting in his place and we're doing this together, just for full disclosure. So I hear what you guys are saying, and I appreciate all of the feedback. I do think that I feel confident that the council will approve the charge and approve the working groups. I can't see why they wouldn't. I do think that working through the equity assessment tool, I had spoken to Joellen. I know Sam looked at it. And I know Amanda and Teddy were both very appreciative that we were using the equity assessment tool in relation to the flood resiliency plan. And so I think that it feels like a lot of heavy lifting, but I think that this committee is doing good work, and I would encourage you to continue to just keep doing that good work. Because I think you continue to bring to light things that people maybe didn't consider or think about, and we all need to be open to new ideas and new ways of thinking about things. And some people will really latch onto that and be accepting of it, and others will probably just take some more time. So we'll have to just keep working on them. But I think that you're exactly right. Like, I think a clear charge, support from the council are important, and, educating people. And I feel like that's what the committee is trying to do. And I think that, I can't obviously speak for everyone on the council, but I feel like there would be enough support on the council for what you have brought to us, for a charge and for your working groups. So,
Thanks, Sonia.
sure.
Now I'll open it up to the public. Matt, would you like to say anything? Please introduce yourself and where you live. Your microphone might be off.
Yeah, no. Oh, can you turn yours? Are we good? Okay. Can you hear me now without echoes? All right. So my name's Matt Mulligan. I live in Barre City, which is relatively new for me since April. I lived in Barrytown, but I grew up here and moved away for a long time and came back 15 years ago or so. And I'm a therapist, and I'm also a gay man who didn't come out until he was 30. And I'm a neurodivergent human that didn't have a diagnosis for my learning disability until I was 40. And so I know what it is to move atypically through a normative world with the weight of other people's assumptions and opinions hanging over me. And for a long time, forcing me to define myself in a way that wasn't positive or powerful. And I've heard the words of everyone tonight, and I actually wrote a little bit, so I'm going to pick it up so I get it right. But everywhere you look in this community, from the curbs that meet the streets to the noises that go off when the walk signal changes, to buttons that open the door, to elevators that have to be installed in buildings. The work that is inspired by this committee is everywhere. And this work has been done throughout our recorded history, regardless of the way the political winds are blowing. And it is always meaningful to work toward creating more space for more people to be who they are and meet their potential. And so, that's my thought. We can't ignore the work that's been done. It is everywhere we look. It is always hard. We are always swimming upstream. The other will always be an object of attention. And, but that is life as a human being. And so the work that is rooted in the name of this committee, it's always been done, and it should always continue to be done despite circumstances that might surround it.
Thank you, Matt. So I'm going to ask you, Matt, does that mean you would like to join our committee? We have several openings.
Yes.
Great, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And welcome back, I should say.
Hmm.
Okay, are we done with this discussion? Seems that we are, yes. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the letter to the Barre Partnership. Let me tell you, I can read it. I'm not tech enough to be able to put it on the screen right now. I probably could have done that before COVID, but right now I can't manage it. So I can read it to you. I've sent you an edited copy. I cleaned it up a lot and made it a little less, I think, odious. The thing that brought this to my attention is at, I believe it was two city council meetings ago, during the beginning of the meeting, Representative Booton came to talk about the distribution, the gift distribution to the schools, to the children in this, to some families in the schools, and it was titled I think it was Christmas for Kids. And at that meeting, two counselors did raise the question about the title being perhaps a little less inclusive as it could be. So I did a little investigating. First of all, I thought it was the Salvation Army that did the program, but as it turns out, it's actually the city police department that manages this particular program and gives it out to, and gives gifts to children. I don't think it's just gifts. From what I understand, it's things that the family might need, food, clothing, and toys, I guess. I then contacted the police department and asked, and just said that, you know, this had come up, and if they needed any help figuring things out, they should certainly contact us. But I haven't heard from anyone. Sonia.
I just want to correct a couple of things because I got an email from the city manager, and sorry, I'm pulling it up so that I can be correct in my the event, the Christmas for Kids event, is run by the Barre Juvenile Officers Association, which is a 501c3 with a board of directors. And the principal director is Jason Fleury, who's employed as a Barre City police officer, and he's also a resource officer at BUUSD. But he serves on that association in his role as a private resident, not in as part of his job. And I was under when Mr. Booton came in and was speaking about the event, I started asking questions because I didn't know enough about it. And I was under the impression that it was a city sponsored event, and it sounds like it is not a city sponsored event. So there's maybe not as much that the city council could do about it, but I just bring that to your attention because it's a private 501c3 and that's there. It has like connections to the city, but it's not through the city that it's being that this organization raises funds and distributes gifts to children. So
However, the school system is involved, which also adds to the impression that this is sanctioned by the city, which of course it is. So it seems to me that the step in that case would be because I did talk with Officer Fleury, and then as he suggested, I contact the chief, and I forgot who else, someone else who's working on the project with him. In any case, it seems to me that, and the reason I bring it up now is because it seems to me we could use this same letter, altered a little bit, and send it to their organization. And so I'll read it now. Sorry, my glasses are dirty. I can't see. Okay. Barre Partnership. Attention, Tracy Lewis, Executive Director. Dear Ms. Lewis, the holiday season is upon us, and we would like to remind you that there are many holiday celebrations held at this time of year. We suggest the partnership consider its use of religious iconography, using images that are either neutral or represent a diversity of practices. That includes, but is not limited to, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Bodhi, winter solstice, Yule, and Yalda. We know there are families that eschew any celebrations, such as Seventh-day Adventists, Quakers, Baha'i, and Mormons. This does not even count the many cultures represented in our city that have other seasonal traditions. It would be best to avoid any type of religious iconography, such as creches and menorahs, in favor of focusing on the values that the season projects: giving to others, gathering with family and friends, caring for the strategically underserved, generosity. Images such as snowflakes and holly could replace them. This is a multicultural and multi-religious community, and using our tax dollars to promote any religion is problematic. We can assist your organization in crafting a more community-wide approach plan for decoration and celebration. It could involve a decorating by theme promotion, such as Winter Wonderland. We can schedule a meeting with you after the season has passed and can examine and assess this year's season through the lens of equity. Thank you for your work on the city's priority to make the Barre City more welcoming and inclusive. Now, wasn't that better than the first one? So what do we think, people?
This is a complicated issue, and I'm not, I don't even know what to say about it. I can tell you there are reams of case law from the Supreme Court regarding crushes and menorahs, and it's almost ludicrous how much case law there is about it. But and I don't even know where we're at legally with all this stuff as a country, but I guess this kind of is an example of the diversity part of our charge. And I say this to folks a lot. Diversity is great, but diversity often means conflict, and I can see where people would be offended, like, well, you're not respecting my religion type thing, and then the other perspective, well, I shouldn't have to be partial to your religion either, and so I think it's a delicate issue. I think you phrased it well in the letter. Personally, I'm not even sure what I think about holiday displays. It's not something I typically have strong feelings about, except that they be inclusive, so to speak. And I guess that's all I would say about that.
Ellen?
Well, as a member of a religious minority, I do have strong feelings about it. I have been subjected to it my whole life as a child. If somebody came into my school with gifts and things for the families for Christmas, it would be the least inclusive thing I could imagine. And it's easy when you're part of the dominant group to not have strong feelings about it and to not even notice it, in fact. So, and this in the backdrop of growing Christian nationalism in this country, which I'm all for freedom of religion, not freedom of religion to put on other people. That's not what freedom of religion is. Freedom is to practice your religion, not to shove it down the throats of everyone and make it the dominant religion and what decisions are made on the basis of. So for me, I think this is a perfectly relevant issue to discuss. I think Joellen's right. When it involves our public schools, that's something we have something to say about, I would say. Nonprofits can do what nonprofits want to do, but once they start coming into the schools, with Christmas, I think that we, have something to say about that. And it is, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And I can tell you as a child, I felt like I never belonged because I was a tiny minority in a place where it was invisible that anybody would do anything different. And it's painful. So it's a tiny fraction of what other disenfranchised and marginalized members of disenfranchised and marginalized groups experience in this country. But because of my experience, I can relate to it.
Thank you, Ellen. I want to point out that freedom of religion is not just to practice whatever religion you choose, it's also to practice no religion. Just saying. And I'm sure there are plenty of folks in the families in our community who are in that category as well. So,
Joellen?
yes, sorry, Sonia, go ahead.
So I think I don't know as much about the I mean, I think the letter is one thing, that's the partnership, and then the Christmas for Kids is a separate thing. And I don't know as much about the Christmas for Kids as I probably should. I'm learning more, but I don't think that they go into schools. I think that the families are identified because the officer works in the school, and he may work with people in the school to figure out which families need help. I have a lot of thoughts about, people being nominated for things and not being able to be empowered to ask for help. That's a whole different discussion, I think. And so I have feelings about that as well. I do think that what I find challenging is that I'm not suggesting that we don't be generous and support our other, especially children in our community. But the other day when I was asking the questions, I'm really hoping that we can recognize how these kinds of programs make other people feel less than. And so I just want to make sure that we're being, as a community, recognizing that we can do better, and we can be generous and support our students, but also be better about how we're helping our families in need and our students in need. And so I say all that because I don't know how this is all going to, sugar off, if you will, but I'm hoping that we can have a respectful discussion with people to help them to recognize that I love that people want to be generous, and I love that people want to support kids in our community. I think that's amazing. But how can we do it to make people feel good about that? And meaning the people who are receiving the help, and also the people who are not receiving the help, or maybe are feeling excluded from receiving the help. So.
Thank you, Sonia. Emily.
Thanks. I think as far as the letter to the partnership, this is a much nicer draft than the original one. I appreciate that, Joellen. And my concern is not that I disagree with the contents of the letter. And, I fully understand the need to create inclusion through multicultural experiences, and we're looking out for the people who are not represented. My concern about sending the letter to the partnership is that we haven't had an opportunity to meet with them and do work with them, to build a relationship. We haven't had an opportunity to even help them define what multiculturalism is. They might not even know. One of the really important things I've learned through this committee and doing the Let's Talk series, and other DEI workshops, is that we spend a lot of time in the beginning working on definitions. And that helps build a base of understanding for people. So my concern is that sending a letter won't have the same impact as taking the time to do the work and build that relationship and help people understand the real concepts of what we're talking about. I'm worried that someone might read that letter and think, oh, they're canceling Christmas, right? Like this is cancel culture, and turn away from it, because that it's easier to push that aside and instead of, you know, dig down into it because they don't have the tools to understand what's at the heart of it. So we can send the letter or not, but I want to reflect a little bit about how that decision will impact a relationship the committee wants to build with the partnership. And if we, what kind of relationship we're going to have with them moving forward, how will we be able to continue to bring tools to them and work with them if they get this letter first? Like, how will that make them feel?
Thank you.
And it's not that I don't disagree with the contents of, you know, I just wonder how we're going to, what kind of relationship we'll build with them after.
Chris?
I think that's a good point. Yeah, maybe it's good to talk with them first.
Just for context, Tracy was at a meeting several months ago, invited us to come to her board meeting. After that, I contacted her, didn't hear from them about being on the agenda. I then figured in November or October, I contacted her again and learned that the November meeting was some kind of special party or something that wasn't going to be a regular meeting. And then the next meeting would have been after or right before Christmas. So I didn't think that was going to work. Thus the letter, just to put them on, not on notice, but just to use the opportunity of this season to bring it up in a way that I think leaves the door open for them to communicate with us. Our job is to not go out there looking for trouble. Our job is to be able to put things into a social context aligned with our committee's values. So to me, sending a letter such as this is actually an invitation. And it would also, whatever response we get to the letter would indicate to us whether or not it's worth it to even have a relationship with this organization. Because we're 6 people and we don't have the capacity to do the kind of outreach that would be necessary for the kind of relationship building that could come to fruition in the ways that this letter suggests. So to me, it's asking really for a relationship, and it's being very specific about how we can help. It's not like, oh, we're going to help your organization be more open and welcoming. It's more specific to how they advertise in the community and what kinds of programs. What I think it was Greg that mentioned multicultural programs. That's the kind of thing that they could be doing. I mean, that's, to me, the kind of job of the Barre Partnership would be to celebrate the diversity of the community. That's not our job. Our job is to point out where we have deficiencies in this area and where the work is and where we can improve. That's how I see it. And not totally from a negative perspective, but more from the perspective of, as Greg pointed out, education, and also examining where we're not open, where there is no equity, where there is no justice. That's, to me, you know, what our charge is. Anybody else? Emily?
Then I guess we're kind of back at this idea of like, what is our charge? And and what are we meant to be doing? When I started on the committee, we were planning book clubs, and we were planning guerrilla theater, and we were planning more educational outreach opportunities for people, because it became clear to us that a lot of negative pushback was coming because people didn't understand even the basic definitions of the terms we were trying to talk about. So I thought that we were kind of moving forward together to educate our community and take opportunities to build relationships, like with the Let's Talk series. That was so impactful because we were able to build relationships with people and work on, creating these definitions together and understanding these issues together when some people have had no experience with them. So I guess I am wondering a little bit, like, what is the charge of the committee, the future of the committee, this, how are we moving forward in our community? Are we building relationships? Are we acknowledging that we don't have the resources to do that work? Are we just doing outreach through letters and not have the capacity to meet with people where they are? Feels very unclear to me, and different from where we were when I started.
Anyone want to respond? Well, to be sure, things have developed since then. You're right, Emily. And actually, in the original charge, there was no mention of education. That's something that we came up with because of the resistance that we have been experiencing, and the knowledge that people may not know exactly what equity work is. But everyone knows the word fairness. That's what equity is. Some kind of is a fairness, but it's a specific kind of fairness. It's a social fairness. It's not like, you get 2 candy bars and I get 2 candy bars. What if I don't? It's equity isn't about equal share. It's about making things just for people and fair for what their circumstances are. I'm not. I think to answer the question about a letter versus a relationship, that's one of the ways a relationship could begin, or even, or end for that matter, is by some kind of overture of this type. So for me, it's an overture. If that's not the way the people who we're sending this letter to see it, then we'll know. We'll know by whatever their response is. I have to say that on the other situation, the Christmas for Kids, I got no response once I made the query. So I'm not sure where to go with that one, except to say that we could also send them a letter, a similar kind of letter, and asking to be placed on their agenda at some point in the future. But my concern is spending a lot of time developing a relationship with an entity that serves the city. To what purpose? If we're not aware to begin with if there's an opening or not. I think that the lack of communication from that organization, meaning the partnership toward me, indicated to me that it's not a priority for them, which I understand it probably isn't. But it is a priority for us. So with that, if no one has anything else to say, can we vote on whether or not to send this letter? Can I hear a motion from someone?
Oh, I wanted to say something about it.
Please, Ellen, go ahead.
I'm just not sure how effective it is, I guess. That's my problem, whether the partnership wants to think about this stuff or not. I just don't know what the end game is. If they're not meeting with us, so then we're going to send them a letter and it's maybe like a slap on the wrist. And I just don't know what the effectiveness is here. That's my question about it. I'm not sure what I see as the outcome, as the desired outcome.
Chris?
I didn't know what to say. I mean,
The green around your picture, which means you said something.
no, that's probably my dog snoring.
Sorry. Well, dog wants to say something. So what do people want to do?
As as far as the letter goes, I can see how it may be considered as a little bit of troublemaking. But as it's written to me, I see, like you said, an overture, hey, have you thought about this? And we can help you think about ways to make this even better. So, there's the question is how is it going to be received, I guess is the question. And that's something that we don't know.
Well,
We can't control what they do or how they respond or how they feel about it, I don't know how effective it would be, but I think it's worthwhile. Send it.
so I still need a motion.
I move that we send the letter to them.
I second. I think it's
Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor of sending this letter to the partnership, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, all right, great, thanks. I think that, Sonia, maybe you and I can talk. I know that it's coming up at the next, isn't it on the agenda, the Christmas for Kids at the next meeting? Oh, no?
No, it was originally we thought it was going to come on the agenda because the Christmas for Kids needed permission for the coin drop, but it had been approved as part of the approving all of the coin drops in, I guess, before I on the council. So it's already been approved and I don't think it will be on the agenda.
So I'm more inclined to follow your lead if you're going to take this up, or if you have a suggestion for us in terms of how to communicate with the organization that runs the program.
Well, I will probably be doing some of my own conversations with people to understand a little bit more about how what the things that I've heard, I haven't heard from the people who are actually doing the organizing. So I need to have a conversation with those people because I'm not sure how things actually happen and I don't want to make assumptions that what I'm hearing is true or not true. So I need to do that work first and figure that out and then hopefully be able to ask questions that and make suggestions about how maybe they could do it in a way that would be more inclusive and also empowering for the people who they're hoping to help. So I can keep you posted, but I need to have a conversation about how the families are chosen and how gifts are distributed. And I think I understand, but I'm not sure because I haven't had that conversation yet.
Chris? Thank you, Sonia.
I was just gonna say I'm happy to work on, drafting a letter you had mentioned. I mean, it seems to me words matter, lexicon matters. So it's just changing 2 words instead of Christmas for. How about celebrating our? I mean, and I don't think that's offensive, and I don't think it represents. I would hope people wouldn't interpret us as trying to be, that we're cancel culture. I mean, that's ludicrous. It's a silly accusation. So, yeah. But anyway, I'm happy to work on a letter. If you want to follow Sonia's lead, that's fine. I'm just throwing it out there.
So, Sonia, I'm inclined to kind of take your lead in terms of what you find out and keep us informed. And if there's anything we can do to help, definitely let us know. I think one of the issues here is discretion. As Officer Flory had said to me, discretion is really important to them in terms of identifying families and what their needs are. So, yeah, I think this is something we can kind of take our leisure with, considering it's almost Christmas and that we're obviously not going to change the name for this year. And it could be something we work on. One of the things that I want to note that Representative Booton had said when asked directly where the name came from, the response was tradition. And I think that's something that obviously is going to come up no matter when you make any kind of change to something that's been a practice for a long time. Is that, oh, well, this is our tradition. We've been doing it traditionally. Well, yeah, slavery was a tradition once too. So I think that it's perfectly reasonable to make requests for the kinds of changes that reflect the changes in our society. So yeah, thank you, folks. Anything else anyone want to say before we? Okay, so the next meeting is December, I think it's 12th. Let me check to make sure. Yes, December 12th. It's going to be at the Public Safety Building. That's, in case you don't know, the police station. And I'm going to ask that it be totally in person.
Joellen, it's really hard for me to see at night to drive. Maybe I could get a ride with someone, but if we could had an option for it being hybrid, that might be easier. But I'm just, again, I'm not saying we must, but
Yes, I can take you to the meeting if you want. I'm sorry, Sonia.
I can pick you up, Chris. I'll go right by your house if you want, and I can pick you up. I'll send you a
Great.
text.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
About doing a hybrid in the future, but I just want to make sure that the December meeting isn't.
Okay.
We'll just do it in person for December. I think it's fitting anyway, since that's the holiday season and we can have a little party. Just kidding. All right. So, anything else anyone wants to say before we bug off for the night? All right. Can I get a motion?
I motion we adjourn.
Okie dokie. See you soon, people. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy